Welcome. We are Neil,
Luke and Dave.
340-somethings, reminiscing on the runners and riders of 90s guitar music.
We look at the bands who soundtracked our youth on both sides of the pond and interview some of our heroes from the bands that defined a generation.
You'll hear about the good, the bad and the ugly of 90s guitar music.
This podcast is stupid and contagious.
Hello and welcome to episode 53 of the Stupid and Contagious podcast. I'm Luke and I'm bringing you today the third of our summer special interviews. This week I chat to photographer Valerie Phillips about her new photo book, which is called Little Baby Nothings, and basically documents the early days of the Manic Street Preachers. So as well as that, we talk about her background. So she's from New York, but she came to London in the early 90s. We talk a bit about the differences between New York and London at the time. We talk lots about music, of course. We talk about other people that she's worked with over the years. So people like PJ Harvey. She worked with Amy Winehouse as well. But mainly we talk about the Manic Street Preachers, of course. So yeah, she's got some really good stories. She was there pretty much just after Motown Junk came out. So right at the beginning, visiting their houses, in the recording studio when they were making their first album, at the early concerts and stuff like that. Yeah, so it's all documented in this new photo book, which is 200 odd pages, loads and loads of photos of the early days of the Manics. So yeah, have a listen and yes, hopefully you'll find something to enjoy. And yeah, here we go. This is Valerie Phillips. Enjoy. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Where are you? Where do we find you?
You find me in my home in Kentish Town in London, North London.
Yeah.
So it's my home studio. It is a home, but I've kind of taken it over as a studio since I got kicked out of my studio in Clerkenwell a few years ago because of gentrification nonsense. So I've sort of taken over our home as my studio.
Sure. It looks great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh man, I love a shelf full of books.
Lots of
almost as much as a shelf full of records. That's great. Okay, so can you do you mind just introducing yourself to the listeners?
Yeah, I'm Valerie Phillips, and I'm from New York originally, but I've lived in London my whole adult life. I started my career here, and I'm continuing my career here. And what do you want to know? I'll tell you what.
So you're a photographer, right?
I'm a photographer. I started out shooting bands many years ago. Then I segued into fashion and advertising and art, and mostly I do a lot of my own personal work. I've put out many books, probably, I don't know, 10 or 15 books, maybe. Usually they're on one subject, which is like an older teenage girl or young 20 something, just kind of following a little bit of a slice of her life around. And that's kind of what I do, and collage work, and yeah, just travel around and meet interesting people and take pictures of them.
Wow. Cool. So you said you're originally from New York. So what prompted the initial move to the UK in the first place?
Well, I was a kid growing up obsessed with British music. I mean, absolutely obsessed with The Face and ID and NME. And I used to sit in my lessons at school not paying attention to anything and just poring over the British music press. And
what year are we talking?
We're talking like, mid 80s. Yeah. So we're talking like I was just obsessed with kind of post-punk and I don't know.
Give us some bands. Who are you into?
What bands was I into? Pill, probably my favorite of all.
Yeah.
Buzzcocks, Wire, a lot of the kind of early post-punk bands that I kind of missed seeing. I actually caught Pill because they, in New York there were no restrictions. Like you could go out and be a club kid at 14. I mean, we were going to clubs as children.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all the kids and everyone in those clubs were also teenagers. And it wasn't weird. It was just like club kids, young teens kind of ruled downtown. And like we just went out and saw bands all the time. And it was amazing. And
Yeah.
and yeah, so I was absolutely obsessed with British music, and I wanted to kind of come over and get involved in that somehow, whether it was
Mhm.
getting into gigs for free by having a camera with me, or
Sure. I mean, it just seems unfathomable to me. Like New York seemed like the coolest fucking place on the planet when I was a teenager. It seems unfathomable that someone would come from there to drab England to
it was
out of their own volition.
it was so much less cool than it was in London. When I came to London, London was so DIY and punk rock, and it was affordable, and
Mhm.
everyone I knew was able to just start from nothing. Like in New York, in Manhattan, when I was kind of
Mhm.
like after high school, you if I went to see someone with a portfolio, I mean, I hadn't really done anything. I hadn't really done any work. So people were kind of like, well, what have you got? You got nothing. Well, there's the door. They weren't
Right,
interested.
right.
It was
Yeah.
very corporate and very kind of just very sanitized and vacuous,
The
and
photography world. Yeah,
the
you
sort of,
mean?
yeah, the photography. I think that for me, the photography world, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So I
Wow.
didn't really know how to get into it over there, and I didn't really want to get into it over there, and I felt like everything was so super expensive in New York. Rents were really expensive, so I would have had to kind of go into like a really straight up job immediately, and I just wanted
Corporate
to be,
job. Yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to be a kid and go run around London and go to bounds, and you know every all my friends, because it was so cheap to live here then. If you could, I know no one now
Oh, yeah, actually, no, no.
can believe it, but
Yeah.
all my friends just started doing whatever they wanted to do. Like, oh, I'm a fashion designer and I've made these 3 dresses. I'm going to open a boutique. Oh, I'm a, whatever. Like, I'm an artist, so I'm going to open a gallery, because there was so much space, and you could just squat places, and everything was. It seemed like everything was possible,
Yeah.
whereas in New York, nothing was possible for
Right.
me anyway. That's
That's
how I
really
felt.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So when you made it to London, what bands were you going out and seeing bands and stuff? Who were you watching?
Oh my God. I don't know. Like seriously, I was out every single night, so I don't even know. Ironically, a lot of the bands I was watching were, by the time I was here, were kind of a lot of American bands like Pixies and Hole and Smashing Pumpkins, and I
Mhm.
liked all of that sort of
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah. Me too.
which
Mhm.
ironically are American.
Sure, sure.
But there was just I'm just trying to think who else. Like there were just so many bands that I absolutely loved, and I was just everyone that I was surrounded with had some involvement in music or some sort of pop culture. So we were all just out seeing everything and doing everything. It
Mhm.
was
Yeah, yeah. Were you in bands?
I wasn't in bands. I kind of regret that now, but I didn't really play. I played guitar a little bit, but I wasn't very good. And I just think I don't think I had the balls to pursue it, sadly. I think I was
Right.
just a little bit too like, oh, it's a bit cringe, it's a bit embarrassing because I'm really not very good and I'm not very outgoing. I don't know. I just thought I can hide behind my camera and just go and do my thing.
Sure, sure. Okay, before we get on to talking about the Manics and your new book, can you tell us a bit about some of the other musicians that you've worked with over the years, photographing?
Um, well, I kind of put it in two categories, really. There are the musicians who I spent a lot of time with doing a body of work over a period of years, which are the people that are my absolute favorite musicians. And mostly that would be the Manics and PJ Harvey. I worked a
Mm,
lot with PJ Harvey, who's one of my absolute all-time favorite artists.
yeah, yeah.
So
How was
that
she to
was,
work with?
yeah, just incredible.
Mm,
Because she did her career. She started her career. She meant to continue. She kind of had a lot of she had the presence of mind to have a lot of control over her environment and the people she surrounded herself with. And so if she wanted you around and wanted to do a project with a particular photographer, she would give you her all because she could. She didn't put herself in a lot of situations that she didn't want to be in, which I took a leaf out of her book on that because she's really smart. So
mm,
I was lucky enough to be one of those people who did a lot of work with her. And
wow.
So there were, I really preferred, I mean, you know, after the Manics, which almost no band could kind of top how cool they looked and how
No.
amazing. So I did a lot of kind of really lame boy bands and just took the big money from record companies.
Oh, like who?
Everyone, like everyone, Take That. Um, like just every big pop group. I worked for Smash Hits. I did, you know,
Wow.
Boyzone and Westlife and Five and just like every ludicrous boy band you can imagine.
Sure,
Um,
sure. Yeah. Were they all right though? Were they nice people?
uh,
No.
were they nice people? You know, yes, they were nice people, but I don't think it was that easy to spend inordinate amounts of time with them. I wouldn't say they were all the
Not to
brightest
hang
sparks
around
that
with.
I'd ever met and or that interesting. I know that's kind of slightly bitchy, but also true.
Sure.
So yeah, so I had my like absolute special favorites who I would work with over and over again. And I photographed like Garbage with Shirley Manson and Amy Winehouse and
Mm.
a lot of really interesting people. Florence and
Mhm.
like I really liked sort of singer songwriter women who were amazing to photograph. Kim Gordon, I photographed.
Wow.
And
How was Amy
well,
Winehouse? Did you get to know her? Seems not many
I
people
didn't.
did, but yeah.
No, I would definitely not say that I know her. I spent
Yeah.
one day with her, one day and
Mm,
evening.
mm.
We got a lot done, and she lived really near me. She lived in Camden. Um, and I really, the experience was difficult, but I enjoyed. I think we made a good body of work, but
Mm.
I definitely didn't get to know her.
No,
I wouldn't say that I know her at all. No.
no, no. How about Kim Gordon? She always looks so cool.
She's yeah, she's one of the few people. She came actually to I was living in New York for a little while and she came to my apartment in New York and I just thought, how am I going to be normal? Because I even though I photographed like every famous person in the world,
Yeah.
Kim Gordon's coming over to my house. I just can't be normal. Like I'm sorry, I just can't. It's
Yeah.
so the coolness is just I can't do it. And
Yeah.
when she walked in, she was just so shy and kind of shy and insecure and quiet and sweet. And I thought, wow, I need to put her at ease. So it was kind of that kind of put me at ease.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's good to know. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it was
You have
really
these.
lovely. So,
I'm same doing this podcast. You have these image of like these rock stars, and they're like the
yeah.
nicest people you
Oh,
could ever meet,
totally,
right?
totally. The biggest
Yeah.
softies ever. I mean, like one of the nicest people I ever met was Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age.
Oh wow.
And
Yeah.
he also came over to my apartment because he was doing the desert sessions with Polly Harvey.
Oh, I
They came
love those
over and
desert sessions. Yeah.
we just all hung out and he was like, you know, he's this big guy and
I
this
was gonna say, is he really
presence.
that tall in real life?
Yeah,
He's like
he's
huge, right?
big presence, big guy,
Yeah.
sweetest, loveliest guy ever. And it is kind of crazy because I don't
Yeah.
know, usually more often than not, it turns out like that. And it's really nice.
Yeah. 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 That's good. That's good to know. Yeah. Oh yeah, those desert sessions were great.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, they were
Collected all of
so
those. They were great.
incredible. Genius.
Um, all right. Well, we kind of mentioned before we started recording, I'm in Tokyo, and you seem to have quite a big, strong connection to there. I put your name into Google in katakana, and loads and loads of stuff came up basically. So, how come?
Um, I'm trying to think. Okay, so basically, throughout my career, I got to travel to a lot of places, which is amazing. Like a lot of crazy, weird places all over the world. And all I ever wanted was to be sent to Tokyo. And me and my assistant, my long-term assistant and best friend Jim, would always have a joke about it. Like a job would come in, and we'd be sent to Belarus, or we'd be sent to like St. Petersburg or Cuba, or I don't know what. And we're just like, when is someone going to send us to Tokyo? We were both obsessed. He was really into samurai swords and a lot of Japanese culture. And I was into I loved the way Japanese pop culture sort of processed American and English pop culture, but put a Japanese kind of twist or branding on it that was so, to me, so weird and magical and exciting. It was like putting it in a cauldron and just making it something more weird and interesting. And so I was just absolutely obsessed. And
Hmm.
finally we got sent there and it was just mind-blowing. And after that, so we got sent there on a job for British L.
All
And
right.
then
Hmm.
randomly I kept on getting these people kind of contacting me I think a lot of the magazines that I was working for at the time, like Nylon and Baby, 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 and a lot of like kind of the cooler sort of indie pop culture, youth culture magazines were really popular in Tokyo. And so a lot of people knew my work from those magazines. And so when I started putting my own books out in 2001, I very easily I had people at bookshops and distributors over there approaching me and wanting to sell my books, which was like the greatest thrill ever. And it just continued from there. It really did.
Yeah.
And then I come over every year when I have a book out.
Every year. Wow.
Yeah. Usually from about 2004, 13, 14, I've come over most years. I haven't been over since COVID, unfortunately, but yeah, I've been there a lot. I have really, really good friends there, and it's my absolute favorite place on earth.
Do you have any favorite places to go in Tokyo? Are there good places to photograph or to hang out?
I like Big Love Records in Harajuku.
I'm a regular customer. Yeah.
I love just sitting there and like having a coffee and like just looking through all their stuff and their t-shirts and bags and cool records, and I absolutely love that place. There's a lot of places. I like Hysteric Glamour because I've always loved that brand and they don't have it here.
Oh really? Yeah.
So I like that, and I like I like I'm trying to think what it's called. I'm trying to think. I could give you there's so many places I can't even think. A friend of mine has a vintage clothing store called Laboratory Burbajan, and that was in Harajuku, and he had a label called Labrat as well. So I did a lot of clothing collaborations and things with him. And another friend of mine has a clothing label called Little Sunny Bite, so I do a lot of clothing collaborations with her. So there's all, I don't know. I absolutely love Flotsam Books because one of my really good friends owns it, and it was just a web shop, but now he's got an actual physical shop. So
okay, where's that? I don't know. Where's that?
I don't actually know. I could look it up on Instagram. I don't actually know where it is.
I'm sure I can find it, but
it's Flotsam Books, and it's
look.
Yeah, he's just amazing, Takayuki, who owns it, and there's just so many little amazing shops. So Books and a lot of those are in sort of Harajuku, Shibuya, but I don't know. There's just so many incredible places. It's hard to even.
Yeah. Well, I love it. Yeah.
Where do you live?
I live right in the center of Tokyo. So it's like 3 stops on the tube from Shibuya, basically. But it's like pretty residential, but it's very central.
Right.
I cycle to Shibuya if I want to go record shopping, basically.
I'm dying to ask you so many questions about that, which I might have after this.
We can do it after. Yeah. Well, let's get on to your new photo book. So, Little Baby Nothings about the Manics.
Yeah.
What can you tell us?
Well, the Manics were one of the first bands that I was ever sent to photograph when I was just starting out photographer. There was a magazine that came out in London by the people who published the NME, and it was called Vox, and it was really good. It showed photography really well instead of just like another kind of generic crappy music magazine. It seemed more like a cut above that. And so when they asked me to work for them, it was really exciting. And the first thing I think I got asked to do was to get on the train and go to Blackwood, Wales, to photograph this up and coming band. Wow. I'd already heard one of their songs and loved it. And
I mean, what are we talking? Like, this is like early, right? This is like,
oh yeah, this is 1991.
Yeah.
So, starting out. Yeah, I was starting out. They were starting out. I mean, we were all like really in our own little bubble of like on a mission for our career sort of mission, and we just collided basically. And so I went and showed up at James's family home in Blackwood, and his dad was there, and he shared a bedroom with Sean, his cousin. And they slept in bunk beds.
Well, that's probably my favorite photo from the ones that are up on the website. I love that. Yeah.
And so I just thought, oh, this is really cool. And like there were records scattered all over the floor, like Public Enemy and Guns N' Roses, and just I'm not sure if it was records that they had art directed for my arrival.
I'm sure they did. Yeah.
I mean, they might like to pretend that that was just kind of their messy bedroom, but probably it was quite curated.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
and yeah, and so we just sort of hung out. It was like really natural and seamless, and we kind of hung out and
Mhm.
drank tea in the sitting room and took pictures in the bedroom. And James's dad drove us out to this little pond where, we did pictures. It was freezing, and he just drove us around out and about. And it was like, it just seemed really normal at the time. I mean, now when I think about it, it's sort of, I guess it's quite weird, but it was just
Yeah.
really fun. They were really smart and fun to hang out with because they were very funny and very smart, very clever.
Mhm. I mean, but when you first saw them, did you think, this is they're going to be great subjects to photograph compared to like the drab indie bands at the time? They were like an
Yeah.
explosion of glamour, right?
Yeah. I mean, when I first met them, they weren't quite as like that. Maybe they were a bit more on stage, but the first pictures I did, the session I did with the bunk beds, no
Mm.
one was really, I don't think anyone was too dressed up in makeup, and what they looked like a band. They looked cool, but they weren't as flamboyant as maybe the next time I started working with them. And then I was like, yeah, this is so great for the way I like to work. This is just incredible. Yeah.
Did you kind of encourage them to do a bit more, tease their hair a bit higher, or put on a bit more
No,
mascara
they
for the
didn't need
camera?
any encouragement, believe me.
Oh shit! Yeah, yeah,
Zero encouragement needed on that front.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But the
And you said
funny
it
thing
kind of it helped you kind of. I mean, did you have like a good? Did they have a good first impression of you as well? Do you think? But
Well, I found what Nikki wrote in the book. I mean, yeah, I've subsequently found out that they had a good impression of me. I don't think I knew that until, you just wrote something really, really lovely about me in our book.
Mm,
Yeah, so I think we just got on because we're all quite sarcastic and a bit kind of, I don't know, a little bit irreverent and sort of I think we all kind of question most things in the world, and we're all kind of, I wouldn't say negative, but we're all like, I think we just all have a vision that's very a standard of the world and of life that's quite hard to manifest and achieve. And so you end up with a lot of like sarcastic griping about things because
sure.
just a common spirit of like never being satisfied or striving for something more. Or and somehow I think we had that without it being discussed. It was just
Sure, sure,
bantery and very funny and
sure.
just really easy.
I think I'm beginning to see why you're more comfortable in the UK now. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So you're at their house, and so you went to gigs and stuff. Where else were you photographing them? What else is in the book,
Well,
basically?
what's really the funny thing is that I contacted my editor from that time at Vox, Paul Aarons, who I haven't spoken to in 30 years, and I contacted him to ask him if he remembered anything about that shoot. And he sent me back an email that was so funny because I never knew any of this. You only find this stuff out later when you're a grown up, and this stuff is way in the past. But he said, oh yeah, I expected you were going to deliver a session that was kind of like the Clash in war-torn Belfast, and you put a bunch of prints on my desk of abandoned bunk beds. And I think he was just like really perplexed. Like he just couldn't quite work out what he was supposed to kind of make of this. But I think he decided that it was actually really interesting that I was let into the inner sanctum somehow. I kind of had this privileged little look accidentally into their quite intimate, into their world and lifestyle. So I don't know
Yeah.
if he was disappointed or happy in the end, but I didn't, who cares?
And there's like live photos and stuff.
Yeah.
Was that like a bit later or the following year?
Yeah. Well, what happened was their manager, one of their managers, one of the brothers, Philip Hall, sadly passed away very early. And the band are now managed by the two other brothers, Michael and Martin. And Philip was just, he really gave me my start. I mean, he invited me on tours and encouraged me to come and do more work with them and come to gigs. And I guess the way it kind of worked was that I would come along to various things, whether it was I don't know, a PA they were doing, or a concert, or a video shoot, or whatever a band would be doing to kind of leading up to their first album. And I went into the studio while they were recording Generation
That was one of my
Terror.
questions. Yeah, were you in the studio?
Yeah. And
How was
Philip
that?
was Philip was amazing for kind of giving me this start, and I will always be grateful because that's really how I kind of got my career. But yeah, it was the studio, it was fun because it was residential, and so they were living there, and Richie had collaged his entire bedroom at the studio from literally floor to ceiling, wall to wall. It was just a giant art piece. And I just thought it'd be like going and staying at the Holiday Inn for a month and making your entire room into a collage. It was just
Right.
like so bonkers and beautiful. And yeah, so we did photos in there, and yeah, it was just really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I was looking at the live shots. The front row was like mainly like female. That was kind of unusual at the time, right, for indie bands.
They
Why
were
do you think that
loved. There
was?
were a bunch of girls who were just absolutely in love with them, just
Yeah.
absolutely, just madly in love with them. Especially like I think really a lot Richie and Nikki. I mean, just the
Yeah.
flamboyant of that. I'm probably all of them, but Sean and James were sort of more looked like kind of just guys,
Blokes.
men.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Richie and Nikki were in their like leopard print and eyeliner and whatever they were. I think that some they attracted a lot of girls who sort of looked like them, who kind of dressed
Yeah.
like them. I thought it was really it was all very visual and photographic and very fun to be around.
Yeah. I just thought it was really cool that they had those kind of spaces, right? Where, you know, for girls to do that. It's really cool.
Yeah. And most of the audience were guys, but the front row was always girls.
Yeah. Well, it's usually the opposite, right? Usually the girls are the ones that have to stand at the back and, get out of the way of the
I
motion.
always
So
go to
it's
the
it's
front. I
good.
always push everyone out of the way and go to the front every time.
Um, so why did it take so long to get this book together? This was if this
Um, I think because most of the work that I've been doing really solidly over the past let's say 10 years is more female based semi-documentary, but
Mm.
I would say that my books are kind of a collaboration between me and a girl, and I'm kind of following her life, but I'm also following the life that we're creating together on a sort of photo adventure. And I kind of forgot about a lot of my music stuff because I kind of after a while, I know I'm jumping all over the place, but after a while of doing music photography professionally, there was only so much I felt I was getting out of it. Not with the Manics, it's infinite, and PJ Harvey and people like that, but it got to be quite thankless photographing boy bands or photographing difficult artists that record companies wanted to get too involved in. I couldn't really do what I thought I was best at, and I thought it was kind of falling into a little bit of a photo ghetto, and I just thought I really need to get out of this. So I jumped out pretty quickly, aside from the odd band I wanted to work with, and I jumped into like fashion and advertising. So I suppose over COVID, probably every photographer did the same thing, like go
Mm.
through their archives, look at the stuff that really mattered to them. And Nikki, I mean, we've always kept in touch. Like I've done subsequent work with the band as well. So um I shot the record sleeve for Send Away the Tigers, which
Oh wow. Mm.
is actually imagery that they took from one of my books.
Oh wow.
So we've always kept in touch. And Nikki and I have been talking about the early pictures and doing something with them for a while. And he was looking through his archives, and he found a bunch of stuff that I hadn't seen in ages. I'd found a bunch of stuff that he hadn't seen. And we were just like, let's just do this because it kind of needs to be done. Like this stuff is really beautiful and meaningful for me. And I started looking through my archives, and there was a lot more than I had realized or remembered. There was absolutely so much, and
Mm.
we just did it.
It's a historical document, right? It's
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what they love it. I think they think it's quite sweet because they can almost see it as like, who are they? Look, who are these little children playing at being in a band? It's quite sweet.
I don't know if they've changed it. I saw them last year here in
Yeah.
Tokyo, and they were the same. They
No,
didn't
I
seem
know
any different from like
they
30
haven't
years
changed
ago,
at
and they were
all.
amazing.
They haven't changed at all. I'm going to see them tonight at Ali Pali, and
Oh,
they
are you
haven't.
really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Is
they
it with
haven't changed.
Suede?
Yeah,
it was the same in Tokyo. Double bill with Suede.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
I
so
wanted to
good,
come.
so good.
Well, I think this is the best that Suede has ever been. I can't even believe that they're this good.
It just blew me away. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd never seen them before somehow, but
yeah.
they were
I
so good.
I never really was that bothered about Suede. Sorry, whoever's listening to this, but I'm now they're like absolutely one of my favorite bands. Like
Yeah.
30 years too late. I've basically discovered that they're incredible, and I'm obsessed now. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it'd be a good night. That was so good, so good. Do you have any favorite photos from the book? There's like 200 photos, whatever. Do you have any favorites?
Um, yeah, I do have I think my favorites have to be the bunk beds the first day.
Yeah, that's
The
mine.
bunk beds at
Yeah.
James's house. And also the photos of them sitting on the sofa with James's mom's darts trophies on the bookshelves and on the television. And just this very kind of very cozy and welcoming home that we just endless cups of tea and sat around and chat and played with his dog. And it was just really lovely experience. And
Mm,
I think
mm.
sentimentally, I don't know if they're the best pictures, but I think they mean the most to me.
Yeah,
Um, I
yeah.
do really love. There's one where Nicky looks like he's put his hand in an electrical socket, and there are a million sockets behind him, which is quite weird. It's backstage, and there's just like endless PowerPoints and plugs, and his hair is standing. And I absolutely love that, and I also love one of the portraits I did with Richie, were in front of the collage bedroom in the studio.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's great. That's great. You said, yeah, your work has moved on and stuff, and it sounds like you're still listening to music and going out and seeing
Oh
bands and
God,
stuff.
yeah. Yeah. I've
Yeah,
never stopped that.
that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you go to see new bands?
I do. I mean, I do go to see new bands. I mean, like at the moment, my kind of current favorite is probably Fontaine's DC. I mean, they're not that new, but
Yeah,
that's probably my
yeah,
favorite um band right now. And I like the 1975 as much as I'm going to get absolutely ridiculed for that because people, and for some reason, that's
No
one of
comment
those
from
like,
me on that one, but yeah, sure.
yeah, well, exactly. Everyone's like, what? I absolutely love them. I think they're like next level genius, uh but I mean they're not new either, but I do go out and see I usually go out and see bands who I really love, who I've listened to, I've heard, and I love. And I'm a little bit harder to coax out if I don't know anything about the band and someone's just like, oh yeah, you should come, because I'm kind of quite particular and quite judgmental. So
Sure, as you should be. That's what music's about. Do you take a camera with you if you go out?
no way,
No,
never. No,
no. Do you pull out your phone and
no,
no,
absolutely not. No way.
no, you
No,
don't have any desire to doesn't the
no.
old instinct doesn't come
No,
back.
because to me, photography is a totally different thing. If I'm going to do a photography project or a session, that I'm in that heads. It's like I'm going to work. Not that
Sure.
it can be personal work, but I'm going to make a project. If I'm going out to see a band, I'm going out to see a band for me. I don't need a phone. I don't need pictures of it. I want to just be there and like go, be immersed in it.
Yeah,
I
I'm the
never
same.
have
That's good to hear. Yeah.
I never have a camera with me ever,
Wow.
unless I'm
Wow.
actually doing a shoot.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Well, before you go, we ask all of our guests the same question, and it's if you could have been in a band in the 90s, which band would you have been in and why? It doesn't have to be the Manics. Any
Uh,
band
in in the 90s. Can I
in the
pick something?
90s, please.
Can I pick
Yeah.
something
No.
from the 80s? Can I
Yeah,
pick
of
something?
course, of course.
Okay,
Eh,
I would be an Adam and the Ants
Oh, I was that
or
was
Bow Wow
one of my
Wow. I would be
first
in
kind
Bow
of
Wow Wow.
things. But okay, nice. Adam and the Ants, they were amazing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was my
That-
first concert when I was like 6 years old.
oh my God,
I
that's
went with my
so
brother. Yeah, yeah.
90s band. Maybe the Breeders. That would have been pretty cool.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Mazzy Star. Oh God, I don't know. There's so many amazing bands from the 90s. Smashing Pumpkins. Um, I know I'm missing so many, but yeah, maybe when I
Yeah,
get to
that's a good list. That's good. All right. And if people want to look at your work or buy the book, where can they do that?
well, they can do it on the Manics website, their official website. If you go on my Instagram, which is Winter and Spaced. It's spelled WYNTERINSPACE. So Winter and Space. The I've posted a lot. I have a couple of distributors that they can contact. I mean, I can give you all the info. I can send you an email.
All right, yeah, and we'll put some links in the.
I mean, they're in lots of shops. It's suddenly today. It's in Flotsam Books in Tokyo, which is great. So my Japanese distributor has just received all the books, and she's starting to get them out. So it's now finally it's come to Japan a few weeks after.
Oh, I might have a look this weekend. Great.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop the recording, but don't jump away just yet. But that was great. Thank you. Okay, so that was Valerie Phillips. So yeah, if you enjoyed that, then yeah, check out her book. Of course, there'll be a link in the show notes about where you can have a look at some of the photos that are from it that are online, or yeah, if you're interested how you can get hold of a copy. So we'll put all of the links in the show notes there. We talked about loads of different music, of course. So I've put together a playlist, loads of good stuff on there, plenty of Manics, of course, and some bit of PJ Harvey, some of the Desert Session stuff, Mazzy Star, Adam and the Ants. It's a good one this week, the playlist. So yeah, if you enjoyed listening to the bands that we were talking about, have a listen to the playlist, get involved in the Facebook group. Yeah, and if you're fairly new to the podcast, we've got over 50 episodes now, so get into the archives and have a listen to the back catalogue. All right, that's it from me. See you in a minute.